Hello there, welcome to another captivating edition of PM Personality Profile. My guest tonight, he loves teaching, rose through the ranks to become Dean of the Faculty of Foreign Languages, Education and Communication at the University of Education, Winneba. Currently, Pro-Vice-Chancellor at the University of Education, Winneba, Professor Andy Ofori-Birikorang, my guest tonight. Good to see you, Prof.
Good to see you too.
How have you been and what have you been up to?
I've been doing very well. I'm doing my job as a Pro-Vice-Chancellor. I'm doing my job as a lecturer and as a teacher at the School of Communication and Media Studies over the last few years.
I know you love teaching. We'll be talking more about that, but let me pick your thoughts on this. Recently, there's been a whole fuss about accommodation at our various universities, especially at the University of Ghana. I know the situation is not different from your university. I mean, how do you feel about this?
Well, I think as part of management of the University of Education in Winneba, and no institution will feel, let's say, good about the situation we encounter when it comes to student accommodation, whether it's on campus or off campus. And the situation that the University of Ghana faces is similar to what we face here. Now, what we have done over the years, initially we were accommodating first year and final year students. When the numbers kept on increasing, we had to now scrap off the final year accommodation and give to first year students, because when the first year student comes on campus or is admitted, the person doesn't know anywhere, and therefore looking for accommodation becomes something difficult for him. So we accommodate only first year students. But I think in the last 4 years, students have come to accept that accommodation on campus is so limited that only first year students, and even among the first year students, we are able to accommodate not more than 40%. The rest will still have to go off town, out of campus to look for accommodation. And they are always at the mercy of landlords. Okay. And sometimes the environment in which they live is nothing good to write home about. We are very much concerned. We are trying to do our best as an institution. We have started some projects, but it's all the time about money. So we are moving at a very slow pace, snail pace. And therefore, we hope that maybe in future or in the next few years, we'll be able to solve that problem. But the situation, as we see in all other campuses, is the same thing or similar to what we are also experiencing.
Well, let's come to the suggestion that the Education Minister made some few weeks ago, which got a lot of people talking, that a lot of the courses in the university do not actually prepare students for the job market, and he feels those courses must be scrapped. What's your stance on this?
Well, let me look at it from an ambivalent perspective, a yes and no answer. Yes and no, because over the last few years, because universities have had to rely on their own internally generated resources to do a lot of things, a lot of programs have been established. And sometimes a university that was purely established for science has now gone into the realm of doing social sciences. A university that was established for teaching is now doing business and communication courses. A university that was established for maybe engineering has gone into it, because we are all scrambling for numbers. We are all trying to raise enough revenue to do what we have to do to support government. Yeah. Now, in that direction, a lot of councils have come on board that I believe particular institutions should not have been allowed to do. Nevertheless, now, if you say that there are courses that do not prepare students adequately for the job market, I have challenges with that. In the first place, even though people talk about that all the time, nobody has come out to even give a list of courses that are not relevant, because every course that we teach here is relevant for the national economy.
Definitely.
Every course is relevant for it. That we are sometimes made to think that particular courses are not important, are not relevant. And I don't think that we have to go that way. Now we have to find out how does that course intersect with other areas. Now we are living in the era of what we call in education, we call it intersectionality. You don't learn only about social communication, you have to also learn about political science. Yep. So we mix up. You don't have to learn only about education. If you're education, you have to learn about entrepreneurship. Yep. So in an institution where these courses are run, we bring them together to produce a wholesome, a near wholesome student.
Yeah.
So if you say course A is good, course B should be scrapped, all that we need to do is to redesign those courses to meet changing times.
Okay.
If you are doing English, now previously, when I went to university, I did English and law. The texts I read were foreign texts, English texts of the D'Abervilles and other texts. Now we bring and we have to read our own texts, and that's what they are doing. And the text that they read allow them to have an idea about the ecology, the cultural ecology, the social ecology, so that they can also be mindful of the things that are happening. Now, you need to understand the history, the cultural perspective of your economy in order to understand engineering. Because when you practice engineering within the culture. So I can say that there's not a single course that will say doesn't matter, or will say it's inappropriate. All that we need to do is that times are changing, we are in this era, we are in a new paradigm, we need to redesign those courses to meet the needs of the time. That's what I'll say.
I see you're very passionate about what you do, and just listening to you, I see someone who is so deep about teaching and learning and all of that. We'll talk more about your profession and your career. But you were born in Ofori-Birikorang, right?
That's right. No, I was born in Kumasi, but I come from Ofori-Birikorang.
Okay. Yeah. Mother is Nana Dufie Ankara II.
Yeah, she's a queen mother.
From a royal home.
Yeah, I'm a royal.
Okay, that's it. Okay, so tell me about Ofori-Birikorang.
Ofori-Birikorang is part of the Ashanti region. In fact, Ofori-Birikorang is about 17 kilometers from Kumasi, on your way to Tamale if you're taking the Techiman route. Okay. And a population of about, let me say, about 5 to 10,000. Okay. And until recently, they were mainly farmers, and every home has somebody who is a big-time farmer, and mostly into cocoa plantation. Okay. People have, we've had some big people who come from Ofori-Birikorang, maybe in terms of the lineage. Then the father will come from Ofori-Birikorang, the mother may come from the next town. And one such big person is Bishop Emeritus Archbishop Kwesi Sapon, who also who grew up there, school in Ofori-Birikorang. That's where I come from. And as you said, my mom is the queen mother. And even though I grew up in Kumasi regularly, my father will send us there, and as we say during that time, so to go and learn wisdom. Because they believe that Kumasi kids were not wise. If you have to go to the rural areas in order to acquire some traditional wisdom. Okay. And I have been a regular visitor to the place ever since, because my grandmother was there, and he was somebody that I really, really loved. In fact, I named my first daughter after my grandmom, who is of blessed memory.
And what's the name of your grandmother?
Akuya Boatima.
Okay.
And so my first daughter is called Ama Boatima.
Okay.
Right? So, and I can say now, because of education, people have become more literate than before. Most of them have moved out to urban areas, have traveled outside, and gradually the place has become more than what we used to know. A small town now into a maybe sprawling urban center. Okay,
so you were born in Kumasi.
Yes.
Where, to be precise?
I was born in Kumasi. We first at Krofrum, we call a place Krofrum or CPC. Yeah. And then later we moved to Asokwa residential area, where I had almost all my schooling from class 1 to university right at Asokwa residential area.
Okay, so tell me about growing up in Asokwa residential area. That means you're at a B to live in Asokwa residential area.
Well, whilst we were living there, we were calling others Dada B's, even though we also live in that.
Really?
Yeah, we were calling others because we were not Dada B the way.
What was the criteria?
The criteria was that the environment, the house should be owned by your dad. There should be a car in the house to take you wherever you want to go. Okay. You should have a chef who is cooking for you. You should have house boys and house girls all over, and then we say you are proper Dada B.
What was your own situation?
Yeah, when you come to school, you should carry a lunch pack with all those sweets, and we didn't have that. Well, And growing up, I would say it was really exciting. And we stayed in a community where kids were allowed to go out and play. And then where we shared ideas. In fact, I think that looking back, I can say that peer influence started at that time.
Okay.
Because we played with peers from our age to those above us. Now, the seniors direct us what to do. If you are going to sit for the common entrance, they will tell you which schools you have to choose. It's only your parent. They will tell you, okay, you choose Opokwa, you choose Prempeh, you do this. And they became role models for one another. Okay. So especially, I remember when I was in Form 5, then Form 5, because that time it was 7-year secondary education, and you have to do Form 5 O-level, then you have to do A-level. Yep. And I was preparing for 6th form, and one of my seniors came and said, Kwame, everybody has gone to 6th form from this home. You can't afford to stay at home.
That's the standard.
Yeah, that's standard. That's the standard.
Okay.
And then you make to the 6th form, they say everybody has gone to the university. And so you can't afford.
Not so good.
And of course, after 6th form, I didn't go to university directly because I didn't do well in one of the subjects. And it was somehow, you felt isolated, seeing that everybody was gone, and then you were alone. They'll come from university and come and tell you the stuff, and that will motivate you to work harder and go and do the examination again, and surely you go. So, and it became an environment of academics. Of course, our parents were middle-level managers. You know, if you stayed in that area, it means you are a middle-level manager. You work in an organization, a public entity where the person was at middle level or high level. Okay, so your
father was working at
the Ghana Water and Sewage Corporation. Okay, and he was the chief driller. That means he was the highest when it comes to those who were drillers. He was the boss. Okay, yeah. And therefore we saw ourselves more or less like we also did that. We call ourselves the kids of a rich man. Okay, you know, relatively, relatively. And so it was an environment which sowed the seeds of intellectualism. Yeah. And you see everybody going to school, everybody aspiring to be somewhere, and people aspiring to travel abroad, not just to go and look for money, but to go to school. Okay. And that was the kind of environment which we found.
I'm sure that didn't stop you from engaging in all those childhood expeditions. You remember some of the things that you were involved in?
Now, we live in the area that we call Asukwa Residential Area. Yeah. And Asukwa Residential Area was generally inhabited by middle-level Africans in government organizations, and then Syrians and Lebanese. Okay. And
so you had that opportunity way back?
Way back.
Wow.
And so when you enter Asukwa Residential Area, the first stretch of blocks of buildings you see were mostly Syrians and Lebanese, and the top contractors, Book Transport, OPD, all of them were there.
Were there.
Now, because we live in apartments, even though our parents were also middle level, we live in apartments. So what we do, especially when we are back from school, is to go around these blocks where there were mangoes. They had stuff that they had dumped in their trash. That we also needed toys and all those things, and then run to go and pick them. And in the process, sometimes you'll be chased by associations, government dogs, and the fact that they will chase you and you escape and you are laughing and making fun, and sometimes somebody will get injured and they will come and tell what's happening. So I fell along the way. It was really, really exciting. Sometimes you look by and say, wow. And we could walk from all the way around Asukwa Stadium all the way to Kumasi Brewery, where we had the abattoir, just for the fun of it, or just because we want to go and buy some piece of meat or kebab, and it's cheaper there. And the walk was about 4 miles. Wow. But we didn't care. Because we had a lot of fun in the way we pluck mangoes, we'll steal. That's what we'll steal mangoes, because we had a way of going somewhere that we were going to. And we could say, let's go here and steal mangoes. Because we're not going to get it easy. We have to steal. And so that made our childhood days and growing up really exciting. And it was really, really segregated. Okay. Male dominant. The girls were always at home, and we were the people who were going out. We never went out with girls. No.
But why?
Not because they had to be at home. That was the idea.
The mentality around that time.
It's still the same thing. I've just left after speaking on gender issue, and the mentality hasn't changed. But that one, it was the puritanical one. Okay. Now, if you're a young girl, you never went out with the boys, and the boys could go out on adventure. You have to stay at home. We'll come back, and the food should be ready. You should be prepared. Our sisters should have prepared for us.
Fair.
Now that growing up, I realize that it's not fair. I have 5 daughters, and we are trying to let them know that as young girls, they can do anything that a man can do. In fact, they can do anything. Anything is possible for them. And we are not segregated them. We work with them. We have conversation with them. We are training them to become human beings and not girls or boys.
That's a very good thing to start with. But of course, I'm sure around the Sokwa residential area, were there terrible moments?
Well, that's one. When we lost one of our colleagues through I don't know how they call it now. You could call it jaundice. And this is a young guy, very promising, that we could go out and play with. And then one day we realized that he was sick. We took him to the hospital. We came back and said, "Oh, Poku is sick." Posted the next time he was.
Wow.
And that's the first time as a kid, we cried over someone who had died. Because we had lost grandmothers, we had lost uncles, we never cried. We would go there and look for food. But when this young boy died, then really hit us that we've lost one of our own. And we cried and cried and cried, and for so many days and months we could never forget him.
At what age was that?
No, he died at age 12.
And you were around the same age?
Yeah, we were around the same age. No, I think I was 1 year older than him, 13, and so it really hit us.
Oh, may his soul rest in peace. Yeah. Now let's talk about your first school. That was in Amankwetia Experimental School. How was the experience like?
No, again, that time, because Amankwetia is situated close to Asqua residential area. Okay. Most of the kids who were there were Dadabi kids. Yeah. And it didn't matter whether your dad was the richest, we all went to the same school.
The same school, okay.
Those who sent their kids to private school were few. So the Syrians, the Lebanese, the rich men, the Pok Transport, who were some of the richest guys in Ghana, all had their kids there. We played with them. They would take us to their houses. And so that community of relation was very important to us. Okay. The fact that I'm in the same class with Pok Transport kid, or Dr. Belson was one of the candidates for the 1979 presidential election. Okay. And his daughter was my classmate. And we were like, they didn't come as people who were dadaba and all mixed. We played, we did that. Again, Amankwetia Experimental was one of the schools that by name Experimental was established to see whether kids could move from primary 6 to secondary school. Okay. And it's the equivalence of the present day, I think, class 6, before you went to JSS. And government was using that as an experimental ground to start the JSS. So the idea of JSS is not now. Okay. It started all the way in the 70s. So for you to be in that institution and go to P6 and try the common entrance was also a privilege, something that we were proud of, because our school was on. There were 2 experimental schools in Kumasi. One was at in Sheso State Experimental, and then Amankwetia Experimental. Okay. And those schools, and they were situated in suburbs of the rich. Because in Sheso was again where the rich, and Amankwetia was also closer to Asqua residential area. So they were situated there. And that's how we found ourselves as kids whose future was more or less carved, that you have to grow up to be a big man because of where you are. And
because of that, you had friends who
we had connections, network of friends who were going to be big people. So even though we didn't have phone at that time, when we came back, we all would come back together from vacation, and then we'll have a lot of chat about what is happening in various schools and what we want to do. Okay. And so Amankwetia really shaped me. It changed my perspective. It made me think of going to school to the highest level. Okay. And the teachers who came to were teachers who I think that, looking back, they had been selected You know, some of the best teachers have been selected and put
to be there.
You know, in a very discriminatory manner.
Okay.
To favor kids who were in that environment. And therefore, the kind of tuition that we had was tuition that prepared us to be up there. Okay. And I think those are some of the experiences.
You've been yellow and green all through and through. Yeah. Opoku-Ware, then KNUST. Yeah. Let's talk about Opoku-Ware. Yeah. How was Opoku-Ware? I mean, what subject did you read in Opoku-Ware? I
read Arts. You know, that time we had Arts, business, what you call commerce, and then science stream. And then from there I went to the sixth form and also read geography, government, and English. Okay. That's what I did.
I know once a boy, always a boy. But first, we'll talk about some of the expeditions that boys usually engage in. Opoku-Ware is a boys' school. Yeah. But what kind of a student were you?
Oh, I was a very calm one. I think that if I look at my life after Opoku-Ware, I had become more radical than when I was in Opoku-Ware. And now I can understand why. Because when we were Form 5, there were far more radical students. Okay. No, students who could do things that you could never visualize. And therefore, even if you were radical, you also were somehow tempered. Except that I really loved Jama. Okay. And so when it came to what we call Samamo group, I was always there, Form 4, Form 5, and everybody knew that I was there. Even now, when we meet as an alumni, they say, okay, Andy, you have to lead the Jama. So I was that. Apart from that, I was somebody who was more or less in Pemhua same time. Okay. Now, when I went to sixth form, I changed a bit because most of our students were gone, and the mantle fell on us who were moderate radicals to come up. Okay. And then when I went to the university, I think I became hyper because I was in Katanga, and the Katanji spirit, you know, entered me. And ever since, my wife will say I'm too much.
So do you remember some of the Jama songs that you used to sing?
Oh yeah, a lot.
You want to sing one for me?
Okay. Yomo, yomo, asokade, yomo, asokade, yomo, asokade, yomo, asokade, yomo. Minidi, men koko di masa.
Yeah, men koko di masa.
Oh mama, oh say iba. Oh mama, oh say iba. Oh ma. Say, oh, say the pele, oh, say the power.
Okay. So you really had fun at Opoku-Ware. Yeah. Now, so are you saying that you were so calm that you never got yourself into any trouble?
No, I did once. When I was in sixth form.
Okay.
There were only about 20 of us who were admitted to sixth form. And we were going to have a speech day. And then a lot of things had happened between the students, we the students and our lecturers. And then the school professor was going to reach a speech. And then we said that it was a time for us to bash our masters and teachers.
Through the speech?
Yeah, through the speech. And the speech and prize giving day.
My goodness.
So we sat down and the prefect's council sat down and said, okay, the school prefect's speech should be used to address those issues. And then when the speech was written, they said, okay, let's give it to those who do English. So I was one of the students.
So edit it.
And I thought that was not harsh enough.
My
so
God.
We put a lot of things there. And then the prefect, we sat down and they said, okay, it's okay, go ahead. And it was after that he delivered the speech.
Goodness.
That we realized the biggest mistake we had made in our life. Bishop Sapon was there. The Asante Hen was there. The Minister of Education, everybody was there. And so they thought that we had broken them, attacked them. So,
but why did you want to attack your teachers?
No, honestly, we were not being treated fairly. For example, in the whole of our system, we never had a geography master, but we were supposed to go and write geography. Okay. When we were in upper six, they gave us someone who was teaching tree to come and teach geography.
Wow.
And so, and there were times that we believed that they had not been fair to us, they hadn't been treating it fairly because the Opoku-Ware school culture was such that you were supposed to be disciplined. Yep. And so they didn't expect that any such act would come. In fact, after our event later, the first demonstration happened after we had left. But when it happened that way, then the school set up a committee to invite the school prefect and others who were behind And it was when the school prefect was being interrogated that one of the men said, it's Birikorang who is behind it.
Yeah.
Then the one who came and told me, be ready, they are coming for you. And I said, hey, if they come for me, what am I going to do? If they dismiss me, my father will kill me. And then he said, well, your father will kill you. When you were putting that in the speech.
Did you think about your father?
And I was praying that he will invite me. So I was there when the headmaster passed and said, hey, Birikorang, come. Were you part of the speech? Were you one of the people who wrote it? I said, no.
You're not.
But he said, I said, no, it's the school prefect's speech. It's not my speech. And I had betrayed my friend.
Yes,
I knew I would betray him, but I didn't want to be dismissed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the school prefect was dismissed. He was stripped of his position and not to be recognized again.
Oops.
And when it happened like that, then we had to go round looking for people to come and intervene and intercede on our behalf. So we had to go to a Reverend Father in Obuase. We had to go to another one in Bekwai. We had to go to Tech to talk to Professor Usapon, who was an old student. All of them asked them to intervene. They did. They only allowed him to write the exams, but he said they will not recognize him as school prefect. And he was a very calm person.
Oh, goodness.
So I think ever since that time, even people still point fingers at me that
you're the one.
You were the one who did that, you and this person. But we said, oh, no, we were young, we didn't know anything, we thought we were being radical. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that I believe, looking back, said it didn't make sense for us to do that. And after that, when I went to KNUSC, there was a time that they asked that we should go on career talk with our students, and something that had been happening regularly. Akatechie in the universities will come back to Opokwari and do career talk. Now, during that time when we went, the headmaster said, no, I will not allow you to be here.
Goodness.
I don't want you to come and talk to our students.
Oops.
Because you are going to incite them,
So he was taking inspiration from what happened in Opokwari.
And then we did everything, he said no. So we went back and they said no, because of what happened at that time. So that's an incident I look back and I think that, you know, it was boyish adventurism. It was just because of the radical nature of being a student and doing something for people to say that you've done it. That's what happened. So that one I regret. Aside
that, at Opokwari, were there challenges?
No, challenges, yes. From Form 4, Form 5, lower, upper, I faced serious financial challenges. My father was, as I say, a bit well-to-do until the 1979 revolution.
Okay.
So that revolution that came took away his job, took away the little property that he had. He had to run back to his hometown, even though he was based in Kumasi. And from that time, the financial resources became highly limited. In fact, and I have to say it on this platform, when I was in Form 5, money for registration was difficult. Okay. So it was my closest friend, Francis Abojidame, who is now in the United States, working in USAID, who, now knowing that I was having, before I realized he had gone and paid my registration.
Wow.
And that's something I will never forget.
That's a good friend.
Because I was having serious financial challenges. Now, Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, I didn't have any problem. But, you know, Rollins came during the Form 3, 1979, during the vacations. By the time we went back, everything had crumbled. And it affected not me alone, but even my siblings. In terms of schooling, my father couldn't pay their fee.
How many
and, you know, we live in an era where men were the breadwinners. My mom was more or less, had been made a housewife because my father said, stop doing the business and stay at home. So everything also on my dad, and my dad didn't have the financial resources. So those periods, or that period from Form 4, Form 5 lower, was really, really challenging for me. And I had to rely on friends, a friend like Francis Abojidame to come to my rescue.
Are you the first?
I'm the second.
The second. How many are you?
We are 8. For my mother's side, we are 8. For my father's side, we are 18.
Oh, wow. Your father is a killer.
Was because he's deceased.
Oh, okay.
And at any point in time, he had 3 wives. At any point in time, one goes, another comes to fill. At any point in time, he had 3 wives.
Quite interesting. So, I mean, how did you manage to complete then if you had financial challenges?
No, you see, Form 4, Form 5, even Rollins came when I was in Form 3, getting Form 4. So he has some, but you know, they keep the funds that he had kept on depleting. So by the time I was in Form 5, almost everything was gone. But 6th form was free. You know, when you go to 6th form, you don't pay fees. That government gives us money and all that. So 6th form was free. So I was able to stay through, and I depended on there are some times that you go to school with some money. My sister, my mom will look for something. But I also had friends.
Okay.
And then I also became a house prefect. And when you're a house prefect, you know, the Form 1 students, Form 2 students, they come, and then because they want to avoid bullying, they bring all their stuff to you. So through that, you have some share. You know, if it's milk, you take one. If it's gari, they'll give you some. If it's food, they'll bring it to you. So I survived through those means, but especially from my friend Abodnyami.
Oh, quite interesting. That means that at KNUST, it was also a challenge.
Yeah, it was. It was a huge challenge. First, I stayed home for 1 year, let me say 2 years, because I didn't do well in one of the subjects. I had to write again. And during that period, I had a teaching job. So
which subject?
It was literature.
Okay.
Even though I had E, which was not good enough, I wrote and wrote and wrote. I saw the best I had D. Then I wrote the best I could make was this. Okay. So the aggregate was not enough to give me the course that I really wanted to read law. Okay. But the aggregate was not enough. So after staying home for 2 years, I realized that I couldn't make the law, so I had to go and read social sciences, which I had admission earlier, but I didn't want to do social sciences. I wanted to do law, so I had to do it again.
Okay.
So it was a challenge. Again, the financial issue was there. Financial, there you were in the university, you didn't have resources, but that time we were fed, we were given allowances. So every month you line up and they will give you your money. We used to call it was like bungalow allowance. Okay. And it was that time, I think it was about 10 cedis or so. And that was good enough because at the end of the month you would line up and collect our money, and then you, depending on how you use it, you're able to go through. So it was huge, but and then government started the student loan. It was our time that it started. So SSB will come and give it a loan, and then you make do with it. But again, I had to rely on especially my sister, my elder sister, and other people to support me through the university.
How would you describe KNUST environment? You've already told me that Katanga spirit entered you.
I'm a Pro-Vice-Chancellor here, so I have to be careful. It is, or let's say it was the most exciting moment in my academic life. Okay. Because of Katanga. You know, it gave me the opportunity to meet people. It gave me the opportunity to liberate myself, you know, from somebody who tempered with my behavior. You are free, you do whatever you want to do. And then I believe that KNUST provides one of the best learning environment for any student. Yeah. The lecturer environment in terms of the ecology itself is appealing. Yeah. And then you also meet people from all walks of life who are ready to support you, whom you learn from. And even though I was doing social sciences, I had the opportunity to also have roommates who were in engineering and architecture. And therefore, it created that opening for me to know more about what is happening outside. Yeah. And so my life at KNUST, I think the periods of joy by way of community and the communal joy was far, far, far better than or greater than those hardships that I faced. Okay. So KNUST was very interesting. Oh, very, very interesting. Then from KNUST then to Ohio University? Okay, yeah. Academically, yes. For a master's? Yeah. I worked for about 14 years. And then I had an uncle who had gone there. And then he said, okay, you have to come to OU and do your master's. But I was not interested in, I wanted to read law. Okay. Law had been my dream and aspiration. Okay. And so, and that time I was working from 1996 to 2003, I was working with Smith. And then I was working as a prosecutor, which means a little bit law background, but I couldn't practice. So then I said, okay, let me go and read law. So I went to write the QCL exams, qualifying certificate in law, and I passed. And actually went and paid my admission fee. But I had also applied to Ohio University. So when I paid, then my uncle indicated that you've been given admission with some funding. So you have to come. And I said, no. I want to read law. I'm not coming to US. And then I had a cousin who brought the I-20. And so we had to go and collect the I-20. Then when we went to his house and we were collecting, then he said, okay, so we are looking for, come and pick for the airport. I said, no, I'm not coming. He said, why? I'm going to read law. It had been my dream to read law. He said, Kwame, no, come. I said, why? No, in Senate, I'm okay. If I read law, I'll be a lawyer. Then he said, you can also read law in the US. Okay. Have you thought about that? Then I went to a friend said, wow, you can read law. Again, if you read law here, it's for yourself. If you read law outside, go to US, you open the opportunity for you and your case. Yeah. Have you thought about that? So, please, this thing about staying in Ghana and reading law, no. Come there and read law. And they convinced you. Then that was my destiny changed. So we went home and I told my friend, I said, you have to go. And then so 2003, in August, I went to Ohio University. Okay, and then you continued to do your PhD at Scripps College. Yeah. How was the experience like? Okay, it was also another great experience, but the fact that I'm here means that US was not a place that I really wanted to live. I made all the name there. I was called Andy the African because of the way I conducted myself, especially the way I dressed. I never dressed like white person. I always had African print on, and it was one of the hectic academic environments that I had ever encountered. Wow. The assignments, the readings, the ideas, the deadlines. There's no way that here you miss a deadline and you say, okay, I'll bring you tomorrow, Prof. No. If you miss a deadline, one grade down. Whoa. So if you're going to get A, because you didn't meet the deadline, no matter. You are now looking at a B. Yeah. Wow. And then we didn't have the resources. So I had partial tuition. So I had to work. I had a family back home. I had 2 daughters and a wife. And which means that they also depended on me. So I had to work and school. Yep. And that was the difficulty. In fact, when I went first, I regretted going. Oh. And I said, I was working with Senate. They are sent me to Gimpa. I was in the process of becoming a manager. Then I leave all this and then look at what I'm doing here. I was washing dishes for my job. And you have to go and work, you have to come and do your assignment, you have to do a lot of things. It was the most hectic thing. But above all, I think that the knowledge that I acquired, the possibilities that opened itself up, the network that I had, changed my entire life. Okay. And so I came back because I really wanted to come back to Africa. I learned more about Africa by being there than here. Yeah. And so I said, okay, let me go and let the young Africans know that they can achieve their life dream at a younger age. I went there when I was about 40. And I wanted to let people to go there quite young, so that if by 30 you have your PhD, then the rest of your life you can decide to do whatever you want to do with it. Leave it. And so when I was coming, people were saying, well, how are you going to Ghana? Everybody's saying here. I said, no, I want to go. I want to go back home. And I was also passionate about Africa. Okay. And there's no way I would allow anybody to stereotype Africa and you go freedom. Yeah. So based on that, I came back. And I think that coming back is in the phase, maybe in that phase of my life was the best decision that I made. You made. Yeah. Professor Andy Ofori-Birikorang, he's the Pro-Vice-Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba. When I return from this break, don't forget he's been a member of the National Media Commission since between 2018 and 2021. He'll be telling us more about his role on that commission. His research areas also include communication and critical pedagogy, right? Yeah. He'll be telling us what that is, and then it's also in popular culture and African media and gender and media. He'll be sharing with us highlights of the researches he's conducted in these areas. I'll also pick his thoughts on whether the media has lived up to expectations. Stay with me. I'm coming right back. Welcome back to PM Personality Profile. Professor Andy Ofori-Birikorang, still my guest. Let me delve into your career. You're a communication specialist. Now, I'd like you to share with me some of the relevant findings of your research. And I want us to start with critical pedagogy. Okay. Critical pedagogy looks at how our teaching seeks to uncover the levels and strands of oppression, hegemony, marginalization, suppression in society, with the idea of transforming society for the better.
Okay.
So that research, in terms of teaching, you teach your students how to empower everybody in the classroom, in the people that you teach. You teach your students with the idea that each of us has knowledge to provide. So the teaching is a co-teaching. The teacher of the student of the teacher. It comes from what we call an author, a celebrated author, Paulo Freire, and it's called the Freirean ideas. Since that, many people have worked in that area. But what critical theory and pedagogy does is to create a mind of consciousness so that you ask questions on everything that you see, and that you don't belong to that fraternity that we call taking for grantedness fraternity, so that you take it for granted that these are things, this is what it should be. And the best example that I give to my students is when I came here and I went to the commercial bank, and then they had a place that had said lecturers, senior members, and then there was nothing. And then there was a long queue where other people were, and then the senior members were for university staff. There was nobody there. And so I joined the long queue at that camp. And then somebody came and told me, now you have to go here. I said, why? There. So, yeah, these are lecturers. And there was nobody there. And then, so I also went and collected my money and I left. Then I said, you see, we take it for granted that if you're a senior member, you should have easy access, easy things in life. And that all those who are here also have the right to suffer if you do that. So we ask people we conscientize students and society to reflect and act. So you reflect on your life and you ask questions and you act. So every day, when I get up and I dress and I'm wearing a particular thing, I think about, why am I wearing this? Why do I do this? Why are people doing this? Why do you have to dress the way you have dressed? Why do you have to make makeup? Now, especially I tell my students, why is that when you want to take a girlfriend or a fiancé on a birthday, you have to go to KFC. You have to go to where we have only European food or continental, what they call continental food. You question those things. So as you question, then you look for answers. And the answer that you get will help transform society. And so I am deep into that. And every day I'm questioning. I question religion, I question culture, I question politics, I question what to say, what to wear. And everybody knows that if you come, I wear suit once in a year during congregation. But it's recently that my wife said you can't be wearing the same suit, so I had to go and buy more, so that for the various days in the congregation, because I think I have to wear African suit. And I said, why do I have to wear suit here? And because you are not questioning those things. Why do I have to eat particular food? Why do you call this continental and this local when we are all in the continent? So you ask those questions and you teach students that the bedrock of understanding society and yourself is questioning. And then with the idea of uncovering oppression, with the idea of empowering people, with the idea of bringing people who are marginalized, women, children, and ethnic minorities into there. So, for example, you asked me and I said, okay, the Asante is the hegemonic group in Ghana with a hegemonic language. Hegemonic language means that the language that subsumes all other languages. So that in Ghana, if you don't speak Twi, you can't be in commerce. You can't do commercial trading. Whether in the market or you have to speak Twi. And that's the hegemonic language. So question, why that? And then if people are also on the margins, why can't we bring them? And that's how I also found myself to be a gender activist, because I'm so much into empowerment and uncovering tendencies, oppressive tendencies.
I'm particularly interested in that gender and media research that you've conducted. What are some of the relevant highlights you can share with us?
Is a lady friend that I had in Ohio who introduced me to gender ideas. And then I fertilized my mind to accept those things. And there are a lot of things that we have seen. And let me go to the classroom, for instance, that you realize that in a classroom, women always mute their voices if there are men there. because women have to always check themselves to find out whether their answers will be accepted. So that a woman will, even if she knows the answer, will still ask the question, even though she knows the answer. Because women are particular about the kind of answers, not to embarrass themselves. Because culture has said, you don't speak in the public sphere. And so when she has the opportunity to speak, she's very careful about saying something not to get it wrong. Otherwise, you shut up forever. And then, so that we realize that while boys are raising their hands all the time to even give, let me use the word, some stupid answers, girls are very mindful of what they are saying. And therefore, in such an environment, their voices are muted. So critical theory would also help them to unleash their voices. You have to motivate them to say that you are on the same level as men. You don't have to see yourself as incapable. And these studies help us to mainstream. Then you also allow ladies to understand, women to understand that, you know, the first thing that we have to understand is we are all human beings. And that whatever men do, women can do. Me, I will not add better. We can also do it. We can also do it. But we need to break the yoke of cultural and social norms that marginalize women, that prevent women from achieving what they want in life, that limit women to only a few choices. And so far, I think that we've made very little progress. Because you women have already internalized those things. You have assimilated those ideas. So we will tell you to dress in a certain way so that you feel attractive. And you go ahead and dress that way. And so even when we want to break the yoke for you, we will not allow us to break the yoke because you believe that that's how you have to appear. And so that's why I'm saying that we have made, but the strides are good. Now, if we can get more women to understand that equality depends on women as well as men, because today I said you need men as allies. Why? Because men have the power. If you want to change society and create equality for women, know that I have the power. If I don't buy into your idea, you can never have that equality. When we started the gender mainstreaming activities in 2013, I came on board in 2013 and we are work. By December 2021, out of 9 deans of faculties, 7 of them were women.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, the gender mainstreaming director didn't make noise about it. I said, the whole world, there's nowhere you go to a university which has 9 deans and 7. 7 of them
who were women.
We didn't make noise, now we've lost, it left with only 2.
Oh.
And so I think that men are allied because I was a man and I was a strong advocate. I lobbied for those positions to be given to women. And that is how we need to approach gender issues. Now, a lot of things are women are on social media, they are meeting their voices, social media hashtag, Me Too, all led by women, because those platforms are platforms where women have the opportunity to make choices and say what they want to say without any idea of censorship for men. And I think we're working there, but we need to do more in order to empower women.
We need to do more to empower women. Talking about social media, let me ask you this. What's your assessment of the media landscape in terms of being the 4th estate of the realm? Have we lived up to expectation?
Now, I think that the media landscape, especially journalism, faces a lot of challenges. Now, the first challenge that they face is inadequate preparation and resources. We have a lot of people who have not been trained as journalists, but are practicing journalism. That means that we are training, we are hiring and using, let me use the word cautiously, pseudo-journalists. They are not journalists, but they practice like journalists. Of course, journalism is an open field where, but once you decide that you want to come in, then you should adhere to the tenets.
And have the training.
We have journalists who do not care a damn about ethics, and therefore go ahead and do anything as long as it panders to the whims of the people that they want. We have politicians who have infiltrated journalism and even the media industry. Politicians own media houses. And if you look at the, what we call the political economy of mass media or news production, there are filters. And the first filter is ownership. So that you, this interview that you are conducting, if you go to back and I said anything against your owners, that's the first filter. They say he spoke against us, drop it. Then the next filter is advertisement. And flat, the idea that you are afraid that you'll be sued. Then ideology. All these things are there. So at the end of the day, the journalist is presenting what we call chaff. Not a real story. Now, with politicians infiltrating, it's become even worse. Now, because sometimes there are tags, there are threats, there are warnings, and so the journalist is not doing what he should do. But there are good aspects of it. Now, what happens is that now, with technology, there are things that you can access without even being there. You can even share. I know one of your journalists was sharing stories from wherever he was. He was posting stories and people were attacking him. But this time, you didn't have to send it to an editor for the editor to look through. Once you say that you are an editor on your own, you can say, you share those stories. So those things are there. But I think that we need to do more. And I don't know how that's going to be done. We talk about training, we talk about workshop, we talk about retraining them. I think that if journalists themselves will accept that this arena, this industry in which we find ourselves is there to protect society, is the mouthpiece of society, the mouthpiece of our democracy, and that we want to see our country grow from here to a better place. It depends on journalism. It depends on journalists, and that they have to do more. There have been several occasions where we've called journalists for doing what we believe does not look like journalism. But to what extent? These days, even if you go and speak against a system, a journalist will come and attack you. Even though journalists are the first who should have done that. When you have taken the courage to speak, journalists come and attack you because some journalists, not every, have once become pawns of politicians.
I think that we need to do more, like you said, and that's where institutions or like the National Media Commission, GJA, come in. You being a member of the National Media Commission 2018 to 2021, that's quite a good period to be there. How do you feel when people describe it as a statement issuing institution rather than a commission that should be proactive?
Right. Those who say that, who make those statements, have not gone to read the act or the constitutional provision for National Media Commission. We see National Media Commission is not there to censor. National Media Commission is not there to tell people do this. We are there to protect. The first thing, that protect general freedom of expression. But at the same time, when we believe that something is not going on well, we come in and we don't have prosecuting powers. In fact, even prosecuting powers will be so we are a mediating role. We play mediating role in order to make sure that journalists are protected and are granted the freedom to do what they do, and people have the right to express themselves. And so many people think that when a journalist has produced a news story that is being condemned by society, then we should also come out there and do something and I'll take the person off. And no, National Media Commission doesn't have that mandate. We are not entirely. No, the best we do in such situations is to invite the journalists and then have play some kind of mediating role. And that is why when they say it's the only thing we can do is issue a statement.
Why? The Constitution actually recognizes your role, and it's a powerful role, but we think that you are not making good use of that role.
You see, you've not mentioned that particular role. You are saying it's a powerful role.
You say that you're supposed to play a mediating role. Let's just go by that because I don't have my Constitution at hand. But I'm saying that even the mediation role, have you played it well?
We do it.
Why do you wait till issues happen before you come in? You should be proactive enough to step in to prevent the issues from happening.
When you say proactive enough, to what extent are we saying proactive? The National Media Commission sometimes would, in collaboration with other agencies, run workshop and training for journalists. That's what you can do. We have a complaints and settlement committee. I was on that complaints and settlement. And all that we do is that when somebody makes a complaint against a journalist or a newspaper or media house, the complaint will come to us. Then we invite the two parties and we settle them. Now, the idea is to discourage people from all the time going to court, because normally it takes a long time. And we have several of such cases. We arbitrated all those cases, sometimes in very acceptable manner. Now, when we have done that, we don't go out there to announce that National Media Commission has done this. Sometimes the media house will go, sometimes the complainant will go and say they have started. But we have such cases. In fact, the popular Manasseh case, I was on it.
Okay.
Just that, because you saw the oath of secrecy, you can't reveal whatever went in there. And we are fair to people, we allow everybody. I've sat in the meeting where the Attorney General is representing the government, the current Governor Dame came there. And we had all the discussions that we had. We made them understand our position, the other person's position. A lot of things go on there. We can't always come out and be touting and blowing our horn. We do things. Do
you think that the NMC should be giving a sanctioning power to be able to perform better?
No, if you give them a sanctioning power, somebody will come and use it arbitrarily.
Why?
Because you are supposed to protect journalism. You are supposed to have freedom. So if you say, okay, because you've written this against the president, we are sanctioning you, we are withdrawing your television license, you are not encouraging freedom of speech.
But sometimes you need to be tough to get people to do the right thing.
If somebody believes that a media house, an individual journalist had done something against me, go to the court.
Okay.
That's why the courts are there. National Media House is not a court. The Complaints and Settlement Committee, when we go there, even if we come with your lawyer, we tell you, this is not a court. That is why members here, most of us are lay people, we are not lawyers. So we want to settle like any other settlement that we settle at home. As brothers and sisters, as colleagues within the media industry. We come and as citizens, we settle that way. If you want any sanction thing, go to the court. We are not. And no constitution, nobody would dream of giving the National Media Commission that kind of sanctioning power. No.
Well, I've heard the chairman ask for powers to sanction.
The journalists even ask, do this, but they just say it. If it started and people were using it in an arbitrary manner, then they will say, oh, now take the power away from them.
Well, I see you love what you do. You love teaching. Yeah. What really is the motivation, Mr. Birikorang?
Well, I can't even say this or that. That's that I think over the years, I've been teaching and I've learned to want what I have.
Okay.
And I think way back when I finished sixth form, I had to go and teach. And then I finished university. Then I realized that, and then people would say, oh, we like your class, we like the way we teach. And then as they said it, I assimilated those ideas, I internalized it, and I started practicing it.
Okay. And
then a headmaster told me some time ago that teaching is your core. But I said, oh, who wants to be a teacher? Poor fraternity. I was not even interested. I said, I don't want him to even bless me with teaching. Why would you say teaching is my core? Of all the professions, the teacher. So after he said that, I left and went to Senate. And then after Senate, I went to the US. And before I realized I was back in teaching.
Wow.
And I realized that, man, maybe that man was a prophet. And said teaching is your core.
Yeah.
And as I taught, everybody began to love me. Okay. My students loved the way I taught, my interaction, and I brought a lot of perspective. In fact, my staying abroad too affected the way I teach.
Okay.
I saw my students as peers. I never saw my students as students. I saw them as peers.
Okay.
I played with them. We ate together. We went to plays together. We even went to the club together.
Oh, wow.
With the students to have fun. After we learned, they were stressed. I said, let's go here and dance. And through that, I gained that passion. But when I'm teaching, you love it.
Okay, I love to be a student.
Because I realize that's the passion.
I must say, Professor Birikorang, we really appreciate what you do. Keep up the good work. But I'm sure also Dr. Mavis Mensah and the kids are very proud of you.
Yes, sure.
I guess she's been very supportive.
Very, very supportive. I met Dr. Mensah here about in 2010.
Okay.
But we were just ordinary colleagues.
Okay.
And then...
So you caught her on campus?
Yeah, we are in the same department. In fact, we teach the same class.
Oh, wow.
The same class.
I see.
Man and wife in the same class. And
how did this happen?
By coincidence.
So whilst you guys were teaching, you were eyeing her small? Or she was the one eyeing you?
Yeah, but he got married in just last year.
No, I want to know how it happened.
It happened, in fact, COVID came for us.
Okay.
COVID came for us because
you were one of the people who saw COVID as a blessing.
Yeah, so COVID came. We got closer. We were colleagues, but we were not close. Then when COVID came, she stayed right opposite my bungalow, and so we didn't have anywhere to go. So we sit down and talk about what you're doing. Then in tree they say,
one thing led to another.
That's right.
Okay.
The closer the branches are, then they scratch.
And then it's scratched.
Then I realized that my kids love her, and I said, okay, if your kids love somebody and you love that person,
why not?
And finally, we decided, okay, so why don't we get together?
Okay.
So last year we got married.
Oh, wow.
And she's been very, very, very supportive.
Congratulations.
And she's an intellectual. We are all into teaching, so our menu is always students.
Great minds think alike.
Enjoyable.
I'm so happy. So which among your kids is following your steps as a teacher?
All of them.
All of them?
All of them, because I say of the 5 girls, the first one is starting her PhD in fall in my university. She also went to high university.
Oh, wow.
The second one is also doing an MPhil here.
Okay.
Of course, the third one is also doing MPhil, MA here.
Okay.
The fourth is at KUSC reading communication.
Oh, wow.
And the last is a kid. She's just, let's say, that kind of pension baby. That. So, and of course, we believe that some of them somewhere may not. But if you say you are going to do a PhD, know that you're
going to teach. I'm so happy for you. You're a proud daddy, right?
I'm very proud daddy.
And I know you love cooking too. What are you going to be preparing for me on this show?
Oh, okay. I love cooking. In the last few years, I have become diet conscious.
Okay.
I've been somebody who has always been speaking. I've been speaking against Western diet because we just use those things to put ailments into our system. The imported chicken that you, the sausages, the French fries, they are nothing but diseases that we add into our system. So I'll be a strong advocate of plant-based food, local food.
Okay.
So if I have this opportunity, I'm not going to cook fried rice and
never
to do plantain and contour stew with oil and Kobe and pear
Viewers.
and egg.
Unfortunately, you can't smell it, but I promise you it's going to be delicious. I'm going to eat on your behalf.
That's a very healthy diet.
And I'll give you the feedback.